The state of Vermont is on the verge of becoming the first state to legalize recreational marijuana through the state's legislative process. That means voting through the Congress, the state Congress. Now, The Hill is reporting that a measure legalizing recreational marijuana use in Vermont has now cleared the state's legislature and will go to the governor. Now, if signed by the governor, which is Republican Phil Scott, the Vermont measure would remove civil penalties for possessing 1 ounce of marijuana or less and would allow adults to keep up to 2 mature pot plants. It would also create a commission to develop a plan for taxing and regulating the drug. Very, very interesting. Now, the governor is set to receive the legislation soon. However, he has not made a decision yet on whether or not to sign it. Now, on that, he said, look, that this bill is simply not a priority for Vermont right now. Really? Well, I tend to disagree with that. Let me give you a reason for that. Vermont's actually suffering right now from a crisis of opiate addiction. Now, recent studies have suggested that marijuana can actually help with that. It can help wean people off of opiates and actually can handle some of the underlying issues that cause those addictions, mainly relieving pain. So what happens to get people addicted to heroin is, first, people have pain symptoms. They get prescribed these opiates, Oxycontin and such. They get addicted to that. They run out of their prescription or they run out of money to be able to afford the drug, and then they end up going to heroin, which is a cheaper drug. Now, again, marijuana in some of these studies has been proven to get people to not only relieve pain, but to get people away from heroin. So, I would say it's a priority. But look, at least he's not saying we're gonna flat out veto it. Okay, so there's a plus, right? Now, if this passes, the measure would make Vermont the 9th state to legalize recreational marijuana use among adults and the first to legalize through a legislative process. Other states have approved recreational marijuana use through ballot initiatives. So this, again, this could be very, very important because this is the politicians pushing it through. It's not just the ballot initiatives, which are incredibly important, which is how all the other marijuana bills have passed. This is through the legislature, and it passed the legislature and is at the governor's desk. That's crazy. It could be, again, one of the dominoes that's going to fall. Now, right now, we have 8 states that have legalized marijuana and others that have legalized medicinal marijuana, right? Vermont could be the next for recreational, and I can guarantee you this is not going to be the last. Now, unfortunately, at the federal level, it is still illegal, and Jeff Sessions is actually looking at a way to be even harsher when it comes to drug sentences, rolling back some of the stuff, the positive stuff that Barack Obama had done in his in his administration. But when are we going to admit at a federal level that prohibition doesn't work? Certainly not in this administration, from what I've seen, but maybe in the next one. Look, the medical benefits of marijuana and the fact that it can help people get off dangerous drugs, prescription drugs, is kind of a bonus at this point. Even without its benefit, it's been proven in a multitude of studies that it's actually less dangerous than alcohol and doesn't lead to a chemical addiction. The DEA right now has not been honest and factual when they classify it as Schedule 1, saying that it is more dangerous than heroin. And look, if enough states get together, and again, this won't happen under Trump and Sessions, but if enough states go and legalize marijuana, then you will eventually see enough, enough of these states getting together to convince the federal government that maybe we should decriminalize, or at the very least, decriminalize or legalize marijuana at the federal level. It's going to happen. Now, I've made this prediction a couple of years ago, 10 years. I think I got like 7 years left on this. So it's going to happen. And look, thanks to the activism at the state level, it's happening fairly fast and in a lot of different places. And the studies that continue to prove to the American people that marijuana is no longer dangerous, we can also thank that for the changing opinions of Americans overall. In fact, more Americans are in favor of legalizing marijuana for recreational use than they ever have before. The tide has shifted. It used to be the polls were flatly against legalizing marijuana. Now it's reversed itself. I believe over 56% of Americans are in favor of legalizing recreational marijuana. Now, we know now, thanks to the internet and thanks to facts, that the only reason it's illegal is because of politics. For example, Richard Nixon wanted to target African Americans, Latinos, and liberals because they were his political enemies. He said, well, let's make that illegal because all the liberals are doing it, so we can put them in prison. I mean, this is a guy that ripped up the Schaefer report and declared war on drugs anyway, even knowing for sure that it is less harmful than alcohol. And it is not more dangerous than all these other drugs. It's actually less dangerous. He ripped that report up and said, I don't care. It's a political thing. I'm going to use it to crush my enemies. African Americans, Latinos, and liberals. And of course, this war on drugs has been a massive, massive failure. This war on drugs has killed tens of thousands of people in Mexico, empowered the drug cartels, incarcerated hundreds of thousands of Americans, wasted billions in taxpayer money. Look, the war on drugs, you could argue that it's very successfully, I think, has done more harm to the American people and to others around the world than the actual drugs themselves. Now, thankfully, we do have action at the state level. I do hope Governor Scott wises up and signs this into law and actually lets Vermont become the 9th state to legalize recreational marijuana. Now, if you are in Vermont, I suggest you give his office a call, or you send him an email, or you send a letter or something, letting him know that you support this legislation, that you support him signing off on this. Activism works. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.